All right, so question one is, if x is equal to 7, what is the value of x plus 20? This one's pretty easy. There's no explanation. You just do 7 plus 20, which is 27. All right, for question two, the lists give the values in datasets x and y. Which statement correctly compares the mean of dataset x and the mean of dataset y? So what you can do is you can use the calculator and just type mean and then type in both datasets. However, for this question, this wouldn't be the fastest way because you could solve this faster by just looking at the question. So dataset Y obviously has the larger mean, but you didn't really have to put this in the calculator. If you just look at the datasets, they all have the same numbers, but dataset Y has an extra 27, which dataset X doesn't have. So obviously the mean or the average of this is going to be higher because of the 27. So the answer would be B. The mean of dataset X is less than the mean of dataset Y. For question three, it's now asking us about these triangles PQR, and STU. It says that they're similar. So PQ corresponds to S. If the measure of angle Q is 18 degrees, what is the angle? What is the measure of angle S? So when two triangles are similar, the angles they're all the same. So P and S are the same, Q and T are the same, R and U are the same. The only thing that's different is the length of these sides. They're scaled differently, but the angles are all the same. So using that information and the fact that all angles in a triangle add up to 180, if Q is 18 degrees and R is 90 degrees, because it's a right triangle, then some of these two is 108. So you can do 180 minus 108, which gives you 72 degrees for P. And we want to find the measure of angle S. But since P and S both correspond to each other, meaning they're both the same, the measure for angle S is also 72 degrees. Question four. A rocket contained 467,000 kilograms of propellant before launch, exactly 21 seconds after launch. 105,000 of this propellant remained. On average, approximately how much propellant in kilograms did the rocket burn each second after launch? So what we can do is we can set up this equation, set it equal to 300, set it equal to this, and if we zoom out, it should graph it, and that should be our answer. And the reason this works is because we started off with this much propellant, and then we're subtracting because we're losing propellant. So X is basically how much it's losing every second, which is why we're multiplying it by the seconds, and we're setting it equal to how much is left over 21 seconds after the launch. So if you write this equation, then Desmos will graph it for you, and if you click on the line, it gives you the answer, which is 4,995. All right, so the next question is a system of equations. So just type it into Desmos. So it will graph it for you, and it's asking the solution to the given system of equations is x and y. What is the value of x plus y? So the solution is 5 and 8. So you have to add 5 and 8, which gives you 13. So this question says a certain apprentice has enrolled in 85 hours of training courses. The equation 10x plus 15y equals 85 represents the situation where x is the number of on-site training courses and y is the number of online training courses this apprentice has enrolled in. How many more hours does each online training course take than each on-site training course? So for this one, we don't even need the calculator. Just look at the equation they give you. So X is on-site training courses, Y is online training courses. It's asking how many more hours does each online training course take than each on-site. So if you can see the number or the coefficient next to the variables, 15 hours for every online and 10 for every on-site. So you can do 15 minus 10, which gives you 5. The answer should be 5. All right, so for this question, just open up your calculator. So square X has a side length of 12 centimeters. The perimeter for square Y, which we'll just say Y right now, is 2 times the perimeter of square X. So the perimeter of square X would be 12 times 4. So 2 times that would be 96. And we're doing 12 times 4 because there are 4 sides on the square. And for a perimeter, you have to add up all the sides. And since the perimeter of square Y is 2 times that, multiply by 2, which gives us 96. And the question is asking for the length of one side of square y. So you can just do 96 divided by 4 because there's 4 sides, so answer should be 24 length of each side. Question A. The given function g models the number of gallons of gasoline that remains from a full gas tank in a car after driving m miles. According to the model, about how many gallons of gasoline are used to drive each mile? The question is asking how many gallons of gasoline are used to drive each mile. So just look for the variable for miles, which is m. And if you look right here, m is next to negative 0.05 because every mile we're using 0.05 gallons of gasoline. That's why there's a minus, because you're using it, so it decreases the total gasoline. So the answer would be 0.05 because we're looking for how many gallons of gasoline are used to drive each mile, which is right here, 0.05. Question 9. If this equation equals 112, what is the positive value of x minus 1? So what you could do is you could just type all of this in decimals, find x, and then do x minus 1. An easier way to think about this is how can you get the 4x minus 4 equal to the x minus 1? All you have to do is take 4 out, just divide the whole side thing by 4. And if you divide it by 4 here, you have to divide it by 4 on the other side. So just do 112 divided by 4, which gives you 28. And when you do that, the 4's cancel out here. So it's x minus 1. So x minus 1 equals 28, which is exactly what you're trying to find. So your answer is 28. Question 10 says the given equation relates the positive numbers b, x, and y, which equation correctly expresses x in terms of b and y. So this is just simple algebra. I don't really have a whiteboard here I can show you, but the answer is C. Because what you do first, you cross multiply. 1 times y is just y, and 7b times 11x, 77bx. Let's write it down here. So once you cross multiply, you should get this. And you want to isolate x, so you just divide both sides by 77b, and you get x is equal to y over 77b, so that would be your final answer. Question 11. The table shows 4 values of x and their corresponding values of f of x. There is a linear relationship between x and f of x that is defined by the equation f of x equals mx minus 28, where m was a constant. What is the value of m? So for these questions, what I would just do is I would insert a table and just type out all the values. After I've done that, I'm going to click this button right here and then linear regression, because it says there's a really linear relationship. And we're trying to find the value of m, which is the slope. And if you look at this equation right here, the number next to x is m, and it's 11. The answer is 11. Question 12. The given expression is equivalent to b times x to the third minus 11, where b is a constant. What is the value of b? So look at this equation and just look at the terms that have x to the third and just solve the equation. So 5x cubed minus 4x cubed. What is that? So the minus minus turns into a plus, so you add them. So 5x cubed plus 4x cubed, which is 9x cubed, meaning the answer for the value of b would be 9, because that's the number that's next to x. Question 13. The point x, 53 is a solution to the system of inequalities in the xy plane. Which of the following could be the value of x? To find the value of x, what we can do is we can take the system of inequalities that has x in it and just solve for x. So if you look at the whiteboard over here, 4x plus y less than 18. So we can set y equal to 53 in this case. So it'll be plus 53 on this side instead of y. You can just subtract 53 from both sides. You get 4x is less than 18 minus 53, which is negative 35. Divide by 4, divide by 4. Negative 35 divided by 4 is negative 8.75. So x has to be less than negative 8.75. Look at the answer choices. Which number is less than negative 8.75? It's negative 9, so that's your answer. Question 14. Bacteria are growing in a liquid growth medium. There were 300,000 cells per milliliter during an initial observation. The number of cells per milliliter doubles every 3 hours. How many cells per milliliter will there be 15 hours after the initial observation? You can take 15 divided by 3, which gives you 5, meaning it doubles 5 times since it doubles every 3 hours. So to get the answer, you can just take your base number that you start off with, 300,000, multiply it by 2 to the power of how many times it's doubled, which should be 5, and that should be your answer. This works because anytime you have a question like this, just take the base number that you give you, multiply it by the factor you're increasing it by. So it's a double in this case, which is why it's 2. If it's a triple, it'd be 3. If it's a quadruple, then we would put 4. But it's double, so we put 2. And it happens every 5 times, so you do 2 to the power of 5. That gives you your answer. Question 15. The graph gives the estimated number of catalogs Y in thousands a company set to its customers at the end of each year, where X represents the number of years since the end of 1992, where X is in between 0 and 10. Which statement is the best interpretation of the Y-intercept in this context? So X represents the number of years since 1992. So this is 10 years since 1992, 9 years, 8 years, 7 years. So the Y-intercept is when X equals 0. So when X is 0, that means this is 0 years from 1992, or in other words, it's just 1992. And Y represents the number of catalogs in thousands. So when X is 0, Y is 9, which means during 1992, they sold 9,000 catalogs. So the answer is D. The estimated number of catalogs the company sent to its customers at the end of 1992 was 9,000. Question 16. Which expression is equivalent to this, where X and Y are positive? So when you have this expression right here under the root of 7, what you can do is you can do X to the power of 9 over 7 and Y to the power of 9 over 7. This just works because that's how the exponent properties are. You can just take the exponent here and then divide it by the number inside this V thing right here. Since they're both the same, you can factor this out and just do X times Y and put this in parentheses and do 9 over 7. And that's answer B. That should be an answer. Question 17. The population of city A increased by 7% from 2015 to 2016. If 2016 the population is K times the 2015 population, was the value of K? So it's increased. So anytime it says it increased by some, the answer should have a 1 in it because it's increasing by that much. And it's 7%. So if you take 7 and you divide it by 100, move the decimal point 2 places back, you get 0.07. And you have to include the 1 because you're increasing by 7%. The value of K would be 1.07, which is C. Which of the following system of linear equations has no solution? So for system of equations to have no solution, the slopes have to be identical because when they are, the lines are parallel, meaning they never touch. For example, let's say you had two equations, y equals 5x plus 5 and y equals 5x plus 2. They have the same slope, but different y-intercepts. It's important that they have different y-intercepts because if they were the same, then they would be on top of each other and then the lines would have infinite number of solutions because they're the same line. But since they have different y-intercepts, you can see that they're different lines and they never touch because they have the same slope, different y-intercepts, meaning they're parallel. So that's exactly what we're looking for in question 18. It can't be A, it can't be B because the slopes are different. It can only be C because these two have the same slopes, meaning the lines are parallel, and the y-intercepts are different, so they're not the exact same line. So these systems of linear equations would have no solution. Question 19. The first term of a sequence is 9. Each term after the first sequence is 4 times the preceding term. If W represents an nth term of the sequence, which equation gives W in terms of n? So this is a very simple problem. So the first term is 9, meaning the number outside of the parentheses should be 9 because that is the first term. So you can eliminate A and B because the number outside of the parentheses is not 9. So they're automatically wrong. It's either C or D. An easy way to test this is the question that says the first term of a sequence is 9. And n is the number of and the n is the number of terms. So first term, so what's 4 to the power of n? If you replace n with 1, 4 to the power of 1 is 4, and then you do 9 times 4, which gives you 36. That's not giving you 9. The first term is supposed to be 9. So if you look at answer choice D, 4 to the power of n minus 1. Replace n with 1. Do 1 minus 1, which is 0. 4 to the power of 0. Anything to the power of 0 is 1. So you do 9 times 1, which gives you 9. So the answer would be D. Question 20. The minimum value of x is 12 less than 6 times another number n. Which inequality shows the possible values of x? So minimum basically means the smallest value for x can be this. So in this case, that would be greater than or equal to. So the minimum value of x is 12 less than 6 times another number n. So 12 less than 6 times another number n, which is 6n minus 12. So look for this. That's answer choice B. So that should be your answer. Question 21. The side lengths of the right triangle RST. Let's draw this out. RST are given. This triangle RST is similar to triangle UVW, where S corresponds to V and T corresponds to W. What is the value of tan of W? So these triangles are similar because they've stated that all these angles correspond to each other. The only thing that's different is the scale of the triangles. So these side lengths are the only things that are different, but their ratios are still identical. That's why if you use sine, cosine, and tangent of any angle, they're going to be the same because they all simplify down to the same thing. So I'll show you what I mean by that. I was asking for the tangent of W. So tangent is, remember, SOHCAHTOA, it's opposite over adjacent. So we look at W, it's right here, and says that W corresponds to T. So since we have the side lengths of RST, let's just use that triangle for our answer. So RS is 20, ST is 48, and TR is 52. So if this is the angle, this is the opposite right here. 20 should be the opposite. And the adjacent, which is not the hypotenuse, which would be 48. So 20 over 48. Put that in because we need the simplest form. That's 5 over 12. So that would be the answer. The reason this works is even though the side lengths of these triangles might be different, they all simplify it down to the same thing because the ratio of one side to another is the same for both triangles since they're similar. Question 22. The graph of 9x minus 10y is equal to 19. It is translated down 4 units on the xy plane. What is the x coordinate of the x-intercept of the resulting graph? So what I would do is I would take the equation that they give you and put it in a way where you can get y on this side and x on this side. So it's in the form of y equals mx plus b. To do that, you do minus 10y is equal to minus 9x. You move the 9x over to that side, flip signs, and then you divide by minus 10 on both sides. When you do that, you should get y is equal to 9 over 10 because 9 over 10x because the negatives cancel out, minus 19 over 10. And instead of y, let's call that f of x. So it will be easier. So it is translated down 4 units. So what we can do is f of x minus 4 since it's translated down. If it was translated like to the left or right, you would put it inside the parentheses. But since it's up or down, and in this case down, you do minus 4 outside the parentheses. So now it's asking what is the x coordinate of the resulting x-intercept of the graph. So if you look at the green line, which is a new graph, x coordinate is 6.555. You just do 6.555 as your answer.